YouTube? Welcome back to the Joe McFo Show. Today we're going to be doing something a little different, and I want to talk to you all about some of the things that I wish I knew before I went to art school. Now, for those of you who do not know me or my background, I went to RISD for my undergrad and I got a degree in illustration, and then I got my master's degree in concept art for games in the Academy of Art University. So I know a couple of things about art school and what it's like to attend. When I was 17, 18 years old and I was applying to these schools, there were a couple of things that I just didn't have a hang on yet. And so I want to share some things that I would tell my younger self before I went to art school. The first thing I would tell my younger self is that you don't need to know everything before you get to college. There's so many questions that a young student has or a high school senior has about art school. They think they need to know everything about perspective, everything about drawing the figure, everything about painting and color and lighting and all those things. And the reality is that's what the school is there for. Their job is to teach you these things. And quite honestly, most of the schools that require you to know a bunch of that knowledge will end up not teaching you this stuff while you're there. That's actually part of the reason of the portfolio requirement, because they will assume you know certain steps already. So if they have a portfolio requirement that wants you to have a certain knowledge of perspective already, then that means they might not put so much attention to that during the time in college because they expect you to know it as a student. Same thing with figure drawing, same thing with painting, etc. So a lot of these schools, when they have the portfolio requirements, they are doing that so that they can say, okay, we can teach this student more of the design philosophies because clearly they already know the basic fundamentals, which can be a consequence of going to art school overall. So you have to know how to pick the right one. The next thing I would tell myself if I was 17 or 18 is make sure that you are heavily researching the school. Don't just look at the student body or the name of the school or how fancy it is. Make sure you know what program you're looking for. If you're trying to go into entertainment design and yet the school you apply to doesn't really offer a lot of courses in things like character design or storyboarding or anything like that, and it's mostly maybe, let's say, fine arts based, then that could be a challenge for you because a lot of the teachers that you would want are not actually teaching at the school. So I would actually go to a school that would teach what you want to know. One way you can do this is by looking at their alumni who graduated in the last few years, I would say 5 to 10 years, and see what they went on to do. Did most of the graduates go on to achieve their dreams of becoming a full-time artist in the industry that you want? Or did they go and choose a different career? Now that happens all the time where people switch and change and things like that, but do the vast majority of them at least lead to a path where you will want to end up? And then look at the quality of the work from their current classes. The alumni, a lot of them have experience in the industry already. They've been working for 5-10 years in a lot of cases. So what about the current students? Let's see if you can find a gallery of some of their current student work. Oftentimes I notice that a school that doesn't want to show off their current students might be because they recognize, oh, our school doesn't have that great stuff. Or maybe they'll prop up one student that they've had several years ago and went on to do amazing things, and they'll just keep advertising that one student. And so you want to be careful of that as well, because if that one student is the only one that they advertise, then chances are they would have succeeded with or without that art school. Sometimes people come in at 18 years old and are just monsters with it, and they can do more than most of the other classmates, and of course they're going to go on to be successful. But it's not the school that did that, it was that particular artist. And then also you want to make sure that you learn about the skills, or you try to learn about the skills that are going to allow you to get a job. If you're going to a school and they don't teach things like Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign or whatever basic programs you need to function as an artist, then that's going to be something you want to consider as well. You want a teacher who's going to be able to say, hey, this is how you approach this in Photoshop, this is how you approach this in Clip Studio Paint or Maya or whatever program or software that you're going to need in the industry. You want to make sure they're actively teaching that and that they have professional teachers who are still working in the industry, or at least have had recent experience or friends in the industry where they can at least get that knowledge from. Next thing I would say, do not be fooled by a school's brand name or reputation. If you Google a list of the top 5 art schools on Google or something like that, you'll find that a lot of these schools tend to kind of carry over to the same list. And a lot of the times it's because people either had a good experience there, or maybe that's just what they know is supposed to be good. Sometimes the people who are writing these articles are biased, or sometimes maybe even the school is paying for people to say nice things about them. That happens all the time. So just don't get fooled by that. That's why I say go and look at the alumni work, look at the current student work, because what you want to be able to produce is professional quality work in the 4-year time span that you're going to be attending the school. But don't let a school fool you into thinking that they're better just because they're bigger. Sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes the emperor doesn't know they're wearing no clothes. Also, one of the things with a lot of these schools is that the teachers are the ones writing the curriculum. So you want to investigate the teachers as well. Look at what they've done recently. If they have not had a job in the industry for 25 years and they don't know all the current information, that's going to be a challenge for you, because it might mean that they're not able to teach you the things that are modern and are current and the things that actually matter. Things have changed so much in the last 20 to 25 years in the art world. I mean, think about it. 25 years ago, the most current show on TV for kids was like the Rugrats or Hey Arnold or something like that. Now look at what we have now. We have things like Keep on the Age of Wonder Beast. We have Carmen Sandiego. We have Invincible, Dota, and all this different stuff. And it's completely different than what was being shown all those years ago, when a lot of our teachers, or a lot of the current teachers, were going to school. Now, there's also a lot of debate about whether or not a school is actually a good school, because what it also depends on is the departments. Because some schools might really excel in places like animation or graphic design or sculpture, but they might not excel in the areas that you need specifically in order for you to grow as an artist. So you want to be aware of that. Now, this next one is going to be probably a little controversial, but I would also say try to avoid a school that has a postmodern philosophy. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, myself included, are not huge fans of contemporary art. And when I say contemporary art, I mean things like the banana and the duct tape on the wall type of thing, right? And so what a lot of these schools do is they'll take the approach of everything is art, and they will tend to slack on some of those fundamentals. And if you slack on the fundamentals, then the students aren't getting it, and they're not going to be able to produce good work even after several years and a lot of money being spent in these schools and in these institutions. So if a school tends to have those philosophies, if they're not teaching you how to build skill, if they're not teaching you the important things like value and perspective and anatomy and maybe even a little engineering when it comes to drawing vehicles and props and things like that, that's going to be a big deal. Because you may not see it up front when you're doing this stuff while you're a student and you're all excited because you get to be with your new friends who all like art just like you do. But it's going to really, really pay when you walk off with your diploma and you have no skills, and you apply for a job and you're just not ready. I've seen it happen many, many times, and it's incredibly discouraging because a lot of people put their hopes and dreams in some of these institutions and they don't know how to get out of it. And by the time they realize a lot of this stuff, it's too late. Some of the other postmodern techniques or postmodern thinking that goes on is that a lot of these teachers will encourage you to produce artwork that's very much connected to activism, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I've noticed that in classes there's always two sides of this. There's either teachers who really don't want to see that, and anytime you put something political in your artwork, it's seen as trashy or as being too much or too political. And then there are some who really, really want to see that and will say your art is worth nothing if it's not giving a message. And instead of just trying to create a good illustration or a good picture. The last thing I'll say about what I wish I knew before I went to art school is it's okay to be a hobbyist. I personally wanted to go to art school. I could not see myself going in a college and sitting for 4 years and learning about things that I just knew I would never use again or had no interest in. Sometimes people have multiple interests, and that's okay. For me, I specifically wanted to go to art school, but I will say this 100%, you do not need a degree in an art school to be able to get a job as an artist, especially if you're talking about the entertainment industry. Now, unless you want to teach at the collegiate level and you need to get a master's degree in order to teach, then that's a different story. But if you just say, hey, I want to draw cartoons and I want to work on an animated show, or I want to work in film designing environments or characters or something like that, you don't need a degree for that. You just need to be good at what you do. And plus, there's a whole lot of platforms online nowadays that are teaching art, like YouTube, for example. There's plenty of free resources out there, and there's plenty of resources where you can just take classes like Skillshare or something like that. And so that could be an option for you as well. Anyway, guys, I hope that all makes sense to you, and I probably will do an addendum to this video talking more about my art school experiences, like pros and cons and other stuff like that. But these are just things that I wish I knew as a 17, 18-year-old artist. So hopefully this helps you out for those of you who are planning to apply to college this year. Good luck. I hope you get into the school of your dreams. By the way, guys, I got a new Patreon that's set up, so please check it out if you're interested and want to support the Joe McFo Show. I would love to have you there. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, all that cool stuff if you want to see more content from me. I will see you all soon in the next video. Take care. Peace.